Good evening, Cryptid fans, Bigfoot fans, Dog Man, all the above, UFO, etc., etc., etc. We got a great show tonight. We got a fellow one here tonight that I saw probably maybe a month ago or so on Mary Fabian's podcast. And I thought right away, man, we got to get him on here because his stories are just realistic and not stories. I'm not going to say stories because stories can be fiction, nonfiction. His occurrences, his encounters, and I'm sure there's other information that's been that's. Oh, sorry, the wife just another 12-hour day. She just got in from work. But anyway, Tom, how do you pronounce your last? Is it Fodi or Fodi?
Fodi.
Fodi. Tom Fodi. So, yeah, I'm interested in hearing some more.
It's the most complicated 4-letter name you've ever heard.
I bet it's mispronounced quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
But we got Blackie with us tonight, on time as always. Jeffrey was early tonight, and I was the late one. So sorry. But
how I was early after all the stuff I had to do today.
Yeah, I know. I probably almost would have traded you jobs because I just don't like working on John Deere tractors. Anyway.
Is that because that's all I had, Gary? Is that what it is?
No, I just John Deere is John Deere. It's green. It's a green. I'm a red guy, man. I like international. So it's a tractor pull thing you wouldn't understand. Yeah, I'm just going to cut right to the chase here. And Tom, I keep wanting to call you Tim, but I got to look up, make sure it's Tom.
Tom. Yeah.
I want to just get you to tell us a little bit about yourself. I don't know how many shows you've done. Every podcast has different individuals that watch, and just give us a little background history and just if you want to, after you're done telling what you want to tell about yourself, your family, or whatever, and what got you here, what got you into this crazy world of Bigfoot.
I'll tell you this much: it was I don't think really by choice, but.
Usually isn't.
My name's Tom, as you can see from the screen. I am a pastor, but I think the highlights of my story include that I'm from Western Pennsylvania area. I'm from Pittsburgh primarily, but Western Pennsylvania is home for me. Spent some time in East Tennessee, but the main encounter of my life happened in Michigan. So just to be clear, I don't actually have too much drama to share about Pennsylvania Bigfoot. I wish I did, but I did have a run-in with a Michigan one. But we'll get to that in a minute. I am a pastor. I spent time in the Air Force. I was an Air Force chaplain for 10 years. Finished up a couple of deployments and got out of the Air Force. I now work in healthcare, doing chaplaincy, pastoral work in the healthcare space, hospice care, supporting terminally ill patients and their families. And the reason I'm here is, I should also mention I'm a father and a husband, the whole 9 yards.
Might be a good idea.
Probably important to mention that too. Gotta give credit where credit's due. My wife has put up with me for 21 years this month, so I should probably recognize her. But the reason I'm here is because, as I said, I had a very, I call it a life-changing experience in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And it took me from a Bigfoot curious, borderline skeptic to, holy crap, my life is now completely changed. The world has changed in the flash of a blink of an eye. The world completely transformed for me after a large bipedal creature stalked me and 3 other guys who just happened to be hiking down a trail in the Upper Peninsula. So it was quite the experience. Do you want me to just dive into the whole story, details and all?
The floor is yours. You tell us what you.
Let's do it.
All right. So I came home from a deployment. The story really starts there. I came home from a deployment, and if anyone's ever been in the military, first of all, thank you, but for your service. But those who've been in the military know that when you're deployed, you find yourself bored until you're not. Basically, you have a lot of time to fill in between things that happen, and so I found myself reading, of all things, Bigfoot books. Like there was a Bigfoot book that was available on some shelf. I was flipping through it, and that kind of really piqued my interest in the topic. Seemed quirky. It seemed out there. But the more I dug into it, of course, this is the era of the internet now. We're in the early 2010s. It's I'm Googling around like, wow, there's some legit stuff to this. There's some legit evidence. Eventually, I come home from the deployment and was sitting around the dining room table with a friend of mine after I just got home. And I think I was experiencing that, a lot of times people come home from the war and they suddenly want to go do something crazy. You've heard that before, right? Like a lot of guys go buy motorcycles or do something daring or do something, I don't know, just they need to do something. And I thought, you know what I want to do? I want to go look for Bigfoot. and I found out that there's this organization called the BFRO. And I looked them up. I found them. They had this trip up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I'd never been there. And I talked this friend of mine to join me on this Bigfoot expedition up in Michigan. I thought it was just going to be a crazy story. We'd come home like talking about crazy people in the woods, probably just drink a few beers or something like that. Just have a long weekend and then come home and that would be it. Like it would just be an experience that, just put it on the list of life experiences. Little did I know that trip would turn out into me having been a guest on the Finding Bigfoot television show because of what took place. We had a number of experiences up there. We were up in the Mead Creek area. For anyone who's interested in knowing specific locations, the Mead Creek, it's a state forest area. We were camping out, a bunch of us. If anyone's ever gone out on a Bigfoot experience or expedition like that, you know what it's like. We're in various areas around the state park or state forest. Some people were hearing sounds. Some people were seeing. We found a bunch of stick structures, things like that. We're getting some whoops and knocks, things like that. Again, I'm all new to this, so I'm learning from people who have been doing this for years. And keep in mind, this whole time I have an incredibly skeptical mind. Right? I'm like, all right, yeah. Sometimes trees end up in these weird shapes. Sometimes you hear noises that you can't explain, and it's a known animal. You're not educated enough to know exactly what you're hearing. So this whole time I am incredibly skeptical, interested, fascinated, but skeptical. And then one night we went up, and there's 4 of us guys. It was myself, a friend of mine who's a doctor. He's a medical doctor. We had a teacher and a police officer. So I just tell you those credentials because we're a bunch of I don't know, just off the cuff thing. Just not like a bunch of random guys. The educated, community minded, high integrity kind of people. And we were set up a fire overlooking the river, and it was the name of the river is escaping me right now, but there's like the Mead Creek. I think it's the Mead Creek River. We're just sitting there as the sun goes down. And as the sun goes down, we hear the distinct sounds of coyotes in the distance. And those coyotes are getting closer and closer and closer. And none of us are really excited about the idea of facing off with a pack of coyotes, So we're like, all right, let's just start walking and heading back towards our main camp area. And one of the things I first noticed was just how quiet suddenly things got. We increasingly heard coyotes. We increasingly heard a lot of wildlife, birds, things like that. Then all of a sudden things got quiet. And as we're walking, we heard, the only way I can describe it is we heard what sounded like a human being, a person following us off in the distance. You could hear him walking. You could hear him making, rustling in the leaves. You could hear sticks breaking. And the whole area, again, it's creepily quiet. So you can really, it's like amplified. The noise of this thing is amplified. And for a while, a couple of us thought we're probably hearing our own echo. We're all walking down, and it seemed to be paralleling us, and doing what we did. If we stopped, it stopped. We couldn't see it. We could just hear something kind of, I don't know, 50, 60 yards away from us. I'm not the best at distances, at least in the early stage of it. Eventually, I get to the point where I'm convinced that what I'm hearing is some local or someone who knows that we're on this Bigfoot trip and they're screwing with us. That's genuinely what I thought was happening. And so eventually push comes to shove, and I want to just make sure that whoever is following us knows that at least a couple of us are armed. And if you scare us enough,
right,
things might happen. So that's when I stopped. This is all going on in like a matter of seconds to minutes in my, but of course it's playing in slow motion in my head. I stopped to turn and yell at this thing finally, and let this person know that you're going to get shot if you keep harassing us like this. And as I did that, I watched as this large, as I said, bipedal creature, a person that was bigger. It looked like a person bigger than any person I've ever seen in my life. I often described it as like a lineman, like with shoulder pads, that was 8 foot tall, because it looked like there was no neck. I saw a head, I saw shoulders, and it walked out from behind a collection of trees to another area that was dark, more trees, and it one like even step, it just walked from there to there, and it scared the living daylights out of me.
Yeah.
And I like I said, I set up the context intentionally. I just come home from Iraq. I had been under enemy fire there. I got shot at directly and indirectly. I'm not the most easy person to be scared, but this thing turned me into a child. It freaked me out. It because in my mind it shouldn't exist. And I just instinctively ran, and the other guys kind of followed me. They didn't get a glimpse of it. Just be completely honest with you. I wish everyone else had seen what I had seen, but they had heard it, and they knew something was there. We estimated upwards of a mile. It felt like this thing followed us, and
wow.
It changed all of our lives. We went back, of course, the next day, did some measurements, things like that. Determined how tall it must have been, 8.5 foot, something like that. And at that point, when at the place where I saw it, I remember looking at the distance being somewhere in the 25 yard range. So it was pretty close to us at that point. One of the other things I left out, I apologize, I skipped as part of the story. One of the reasons we knew that there was someone or something following us is because me and one of the other guys were military, and we were convinced that we were convincing ourselves that we had been hearing our own echo. Surely this is not something else, it's us. So we called out a cadence, and we stopped on the same foot, like a military cadence. We kind of marched for a couple steps and then came down on the same foot. And when we did that, this thing stumbled. That was like a critical point of the experience. It stumbled. We heard it trip. Like it kind of like we caught it off guard. Like it was trying to do what we were doing. It was trying to mimic us. It was trying to parallel us. And then all of a sudden, we threw it off somehow. And that's when that was what triggered me to be like, okay, I don't know who this person is or what they think they're doing, but I'm gonna finally just kind of walk towards the tree line and give it a piece of my mind. And that's when I saw it.
Tell us a little about what you saw.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. I saw the black figure, super tall, like a cone-shaped head, linebacker shoulders. That's the best way I can describe it. Shoulders that like went up to its neck. And seemed like I saw it from like that far up, like if you're looking at me on camera, like this part. And then as soon as we saw it and I screamed and kind of took off, it was we never heard anything again. It never followed us. We didn't, things kind of went back to normal. So it was more than just the the shadow in the night. It was
Right.
the circumstances around us even changed. Like the environment changed the moment our projection is it kind of went the perpendicular direction of where we were going. If we're walking east to west, and I'm not sure that direction is accurate, but if we're walking east to west, it went north. It like took the opposite 90-degree angle turn and left us. I coincidentally, around that time that evening, there was also a group on the edge of that river I talked about. We were kind of hanging out above a river, overlooking this river on this hillside. There was a group on the other bank of the river, on the other side of it. When we got back to the camp and we got to talking and we were all kind of like debriefing after this whole thing happened, there was a corresponding story in which somebody on the other side of the river, a group of people, had heard what sounded like a large, maybe like a deer or a bear or something large coming through the water. Like something had thrashed through the water and it entered on one side of our side of the river and exited on their side of the river. And that's what we estimate was the being that was following us. If you drew the lines on the map, it made sense that it went that direction towards them and crossed the river and up and went.
Did you smell anything by chance? Patrick's asking.
Well, that's a good question. Smell doesn't stand out to me as something I had noticed. That doesn't mean I didn't and maybe didn't recognize, because I know after this whole thing happened, my wife describes me as someone who gets easily obsessed. Like if something new tickles my fancy, something catches my interest, I need to understand it inside and out. I'm not satisfied with having an ancillary understanding of something. I need to study it. I need a master's degree in it and get involved in whatever it is. I become obsessive. And so, yeah, I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of studying, got involved with the BFRO and Pennsylvania groups here in the local area. And I know that smell is a distinct characterization of a lot of experiences, a lot of encounters. But for mine, I don't particularly remember that. I don't remember seeing eyes. That's also of interest, because I know on the same trip we had a group that were seeing eye shine, and there was a group that were seeing, I think, bluish white, like kind of eye shine in the same area. I didn't see it. I can't tell you. I saw this color. Eyes didn't stand out to me. I saw a black mass that was coming through the dusky night, with the silhouette, and it freaked me out. I didn't stick around to study it. I wish, because I also fancy myself like a photographer. I do a lot of videography work. I enjoy that kind of stuff. I wish that I had all my high-end camera gear ready to go for this one encounter. And I'm sure everybody who's ever had a Bigfoot encounter says the same thing, because and this is why I always push back on anybody who says, well, if these things are real, we all have cell phones, we all have cameras, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you don't understand when this happens. You're not thinking that. At least I wasn't,
Right.
and it, because again, I'm coming at it from like a skeptical mind. I'm kind of in on it, but I'm like, nah, I'm not sure I believe all this stuff. When it happened in that split second, the only thing honestly that I thought of was, this thing could destroy me. This thing could hurt me, because it was so large. And it was instinctual, unconscious. The fight or flight thing happened, and I was like, nope, not fighting that thing.
I agree. And I think
as being a guy that used to fight a lot, you get to a point where you start picking and choosing what you want to fight and what you want to run from. So
yeah,
sounds smart.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not someone who scares easily. Honestly, I tend to be. That's why I'm really good at the work that I do as kind of a, healthcare, hospice, chaplaincy. I did military chaplaincy for a while, because I don't have that instinctively fearful or running from tough situations or scary situations. Like, I tend to be kind of stoic in a lot of environments that other people might get more emotional and react. I don't. This was very different. And for me, at least for me personally, that is one of the biggest pieces of evidence for me personally that something really did happen. Because sometimes when things happen, you can get into your own head and like, did I really see something? Did this? No, I'm making this up. I had Bigfoot on the mind. I did, I'm seeing a blob squatch and I'm convincing myself. I would not have reacted as I did had not something been there.
May I ask you a question? When you saw this and your buddies, you guys all saw this and you were decompressing and talking about it afterwards, what did you guys say to each other? I mean, what was the general?
I think we all, I don't think there wasn't a whole lot of conversation at first because I think we were all kind of stunned. There was like this shock factor. I know we ran into some of the guys who organized the trip first, and they saw us all. And I remember one guy in particular looked at us and said, "It looks like you've seen a ghost. Like you guys don't look right. Something clearly happened to you." And so after a while, we have since, especially me and the guy who went with, his name is Ben. Ben and I have talked about it time and again, and it's kind of become normalized as part of our life stories, as part of our experience. But it's at first it was much more of the shock factor. Like, did this really happen? And it was more of a, I don't know, we got almost a PTSD response, kind of like we didn't really talk about it in incredible detail until we were interviewed and we're asking for details, things like that from the organizers looking to make a report out of it. Would you say it gave you like an adrenaline rush? Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah. Yeah. It spikes your adrenaline. I mean, I would assume. Yeah. Like absolutely. I felt like I jumped 6 feet in the air and 9 feet back. Like it was the most frightening thing I'd ever seen and experienced. Did you think, or I guess my question is, did you have to recall it in your mind? Like it happened, but then as you're rethinking, how do I explain this? So it happened and then you backed away. And I guess, were you recalling it in your mind, trying to figure out what it was or yeah. I mean, up until even to this day, I mean, this, guys, just to make sure I'm giving context, this was 13 years ago now. It was in 2012 when this happened. And even up until this day, I often caveat my story with things like, I don't have proof. Like, I don't have something to show you to justify my story, to support my story. A lot don't. And so in some ways I almost like am apologetic about it, because I'm like, you have to. You're constantly questioning your own sanity about it. Like, did this really happen? I think that's a problem with a lot of people. I haven't seen one. Yeah. I haven't experienced anything. I've had handprints on my vehicles, the only thing I've experienced. But it's got to be hard for people to, without proof, without a cast or something, to say, this is what I saw, unless you have the cojones to just come out and say it. I mean, that's the big thing. Yeah. Here you are, you have no proof, but you're telling your experience. And I've seen that in so many people that we've talked to. And, by this point, if people aren't believing these things are real, then, after listening to all this. Yeah. Well, it certainly has cost me more than it has benefited me. I'll tell you that much. Like, I got the call about a year later after the incident happened to go on the Finding Bigfoot show. And I thought this thing was over and done with. Like I moved on myself, thinking it was what it was, and we're just moving on. Other than I got involved in some local Bigfoot stuff, and it opened my world to it. And when I got the call to be on the show, I decided at that point, one of the things my wife and I talked about is I believe being honest to a fault in all things. Meaning, in my world, in my work, I'm not interested in telling the most compelling story. I'm not interested in telling the making sure I have all my I's dotted and T's crossed. I just want to tell you what happened, right, in all things, because I think as a pastor, thinking about me professionally, that's where I would say God works the most, in my own personal experiences, in my own personal life, and what I go through, what I experience. it may connect with somebody else who's going through something similar. In just general speaking, I'm not talking about Bigfoot necessarily,
Right.
but just in life. And some people try to hide, the ugly parts of their life. Some people try to, just polish over some of the things that they can't explain fully, why they did something or why they experienced something. And the reason I bring that up is because I just think if you're just honest to a fault, you're going to connect with more people and you're just going to be you. Now, it might not benefit you financially. It's certainly going to cost you in ways. But I decided to do that show. I decided to be on shows like this because it's part of the cacophony of stories. It's part of, the hundreds or thousands of stories out there that people have. And if me telling my story encourages somebody else to say, I had something similar happen, then that's what it's for. That's the benefit of it.
Agreed.
That's the whole idea. The whole idea for these shows.
Yeah.
We're not trying to prove anything to anybody. We just want to hear, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to come forward. You don't have to show your face. As you see, Jeff is not showing his face.
But the thing about it is you when people finally decide to come on one of these shows, I am sure that it is a big relief to them after they're able to share their experience and listen to other people that shared their experience. And, like with the three of you who've had experiences, being able to talk about it with them and them being in a comfort zone, like, okay, these people believe me because they've seen it as well. And I think that's a huge deal.
Right.
Yeah. And it's what's weird. Like, mine started with a sighting as a child, a younger one. Mine started with it. And now I've had everything but a footprint. I've had the eye shine. I've had the audio is freaking unbelievable.
Yeah.
2 different times here within a month apart of one another.
Wow.
Quiet sense that I know of. But back then in 2020, we were doing a lot of traveling back and forth out of central Pennsylvania to film pulling and stuff. So, we were getting home 2-3 o'clock in the morning and stuff. So.
Yeah.
But
one
people
of
need
my
to come forward. Never be afraid. Come forward.
Yeah. One of my victories in just embracing my story and sharing it is I met a guy in Washington, PA, just south of Pittsburgh. And he lived in a rural area, and he actually came forward with a story about when he was a child himself. And it was actually a really frightening ordeal for him. He said that there was his parents were building a house. They bought property. They were building a house. They were living in a trailer. And he remembers as a kid that his dad came down to the house and wanted to get his audio recorder. This is back in the 70s, mind you. Wanted to get his audio recorder, like tape recorder, because he wanted to record some weird vocalizations happening in the woods around their property. And it sounded like something was fighting a dog. It was a story he told me. Like, that's what it sounded like. And he said he went with his dad down into the woods near their property. And his dad told his son, like, it was getting scary. And he told his son, this time he's probably like 10 years old, saying, stay back here. I need to go closer. And it traumatized him. He came out of it. It turns out that there something, he doesn't have a picture or he didn't have he didn't lay eyes on it, but something killed his neighbor's dog. Basically what happened. And it was just such a terrifying ordeal for him that he didn't tell the story. He kind of held on to it. Well, his dad was getting older. He has since passed away, but his dad was getting older, and he had that tape. And he's like, I want you to hear this because I want you to hear what we recorded. And that audio tape, I mean, it was mind blowing what we were hearing. I told him, it's even in the official, this is a BFRO report, but I remember telling him, I said, either you got some like compelling audio here, or you're totally pulling my chain and it's some like bear you've put into like a cage or something. Like it was that distinct and that powerful. But I share all this because it was my willingness to share my story, which seemed to encourage him to share his, and it was like, if he's willing to do that, then I can share what I've got. And we were able to get that audio record digitally transferred. It was off the cassette. I mean, the cassette was like crumbling. But it was all that to agree with the point, just share your stories. Like what are we hiding from? I know that it has cost me people. Like I do pastor a small church. In addition to the work I do in healthcare, And I know that it's cost me a bit of reputation points with some people, like, it's the crazy guy who has a Bigfoot story. But I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. I don't make any false claims. I'm not going to tell you that I
crazy?
But isn't that like when you have friends, you find out who your real friends are? And I think, if people aren't willing to believe you, then those people really don't need to be in.
Yeah. I've been involved in local politics. People have heard, he was on Finding Bigfoot. Again, I say all this to say, like, it's cost me more than it's benefited me. I'm not here to, to earn anything or gain anything.
Right.
Yeah. It's just, I'm just going to be honest to a fault and let the chips fall where they may.
I always said that if I ever have an experience, I will let everybody know. I'll tell it. I'm one of those people that will tell you my whole life story sitting here.
Yeah.
So if I see something, I have no problem sharing it because I've never cared what anybody has thought about me. I mean, look at me, the big beard, tattoos. So many people say things about me and I could care less. And I think I love that about myself. So.
Jeff. Yeah. If you only heard what Jeffrey said about you, my Lord.
Hey, Chad, you do have Bigfoot handprints on the back of your Kia. So
I do have those, yes. Well, not now, but yeah, I did. I couldn't keep those there for 4 months.
He had something looking in his back window while they were camping.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
I've had a lot of vocals. I've been screamed at. I've had all sorts of.
Yeah. Well, I happen to be scrolling the chat here and I see someone, I don't know, is it Virax asked, does the encounter still affect you or has it changed the way you approach the woods? And my kids, I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. Of course, as I mentioned, my wife and I have been married for over 20 years. And yes, it has affected me because it is part of our life now. Like it is, we just went out to Yellowstone. We did a 4,000-mile road trip and the kids recognize areas like, this is Squatchy, Dad. Like, and so it's always kind of like you got that extra eye, that third eye always scanning. It certainly has changed my perspective
daily. Even out here mowing daily along the woods.
Absolutely.
Constantly on a swivel.
Yeah, in my commutes around Western Pennsylvania, doing my daily work, I'm constantly, especially if I'm in more rural areas, I'm like, it's an area that something could easily disappear, and you could step out into that tree line 20 yards and you wouldn't know it's there. You'd completely be gone. Do you still have a bourbon collection? Mary, no. Yes, of course I do. I have a extensive one. And again, this is just me being me, I'm a pastor who likes whiskey. So it's something.
I knew there was a reason I liked you.
Yeah, I've got a good whiskey collection. Seems to go along with telling Bigfoot stories. I'll be honest with you. I feel like you kind of have to,
Well, sometimes after you talk about some of this stuff, you need one.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah.
Looking for other. So you just had the experience in Michigan?
Yeah, so I personally have not had any other experiences. I wish I could tell you more stories.
I'm glad you can't.
What's
for
that?
For your sake, I'm kind of glad you can't. I wouldn't want somebody to have all that,
Yeah. I got involved in some investigation type stuff here in Western Pennsylvania. As soon as this sort of thing happens, it just blows your mind. Everything, and anytime I'm out near a state park or a rural area, I'm always wanting to just kind of look around, do some personal investigating. But frankly, after my kids were born, that kind of took my time beyond work and priorities shifted. So I haven't done as much as I used to. I remember when Mary had asked me to be on her show. This is the first time I've publicly spoken about my story, was on her show in recent years, because I kind of felt like, I don't know, maybe I wanted to re-engage in the Bigfoot world, maybe start getting more involved in it again. Other things took priority for a little while. for the first like 10 years of my kid's life. Probably important, you know. That's a good question here. I am a person who takes a very I don't know how to put this. I don't go down the road, at least personally, of this being like demonic. There's people who talk about this being like a spiritual thing, demonic thing. I look at my experience and the thing that I saw and experienced as a flesh and blood biological creature, just another one of God's creation, another member of the animal kingdom, if you want to describe it at that. And if you talk about this subject in the Christian world, it immediately brings up a lot of stories from the Old Testament, Nephilim, things like that. And I'm open to having that conversation. I'm open to exploring the possibility of those kinds of things. But as I said before, I come from a skeptical mindset. Even my conversion to the Christian faith, becoming a Christian, I didn't become a believer as a Christian until I was in my 20s, or almost into my 20s. Because I need to have something explained to me. I need to personally experience something. I'm very skeptical, just matter of factly, like that's who I am. And so for this subject matter, for now, I'm at it being another animal, if you want to call it an undocumented animal, or at least from the scientific community. And, I appreciate those like Jeff Meldrum and folks like that who are doing a lot of amazing work at great personal cost, professional cost, exploring this from that perspective, the scientific perspective. That's really what, beyond my own experience, that's really what brought me into the fold was having like the Patterson-Gimlin film, analyzed from every angle, and being explained, and every challenge against it being scientifically considered and explained. I've always appreciated that kind of stuff. So that, even though I am a person of faith and I come from a Christian background, I do take that more scientific look at it personally.
I think, for me in this in the Bigfoot world, I'm a person that questions everything. I have to be, there has to be something to push me in the direction of, if I'm looking at Bigfoots or big feet or big shoe wearing things, whatever you call them, I have to kind of prove to myself that they exist. And the way I had to do that was be a part of these podcasts and meeting all these people. I've been to multiple meet and greets and heard firsthand stories. And, I might not ever have an experience, but listening to other people and their experiences and seeing how that affects them, that proves to me that there is something out there. You mentioned, something spiritual or flesh and blood. I've heard stories where it leans one direction, and I've heard, experiences where it's led another direction. So until I have an experience, I have to go by both of them. I can't prove to myself, that's how I work.
Yeah.
I hope everybody does that. I tell everybody, you should always question everything, because, you don't want somebody just to go, oh, I saw a Bigfoot. Oh, you did? Cool. And that's it. I want somebody that's going to ask questions about that.
Yeah.
What did it look like? Did it make a noise? Did it smell? And all these people here in our chats, they do that because they have experiences, most of them, and they know what I'm saying is question it. Everybody needs to question it. It's the easiest way to find things out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, like you were saying, I'm open. I want answers. This is like anybody else. And if I experience something that shifts my perspective on this, like, a lot of guys got into the conversation about orbs and things like that. I've not experienced that. I'm not saying it's not legit. People have had genuine experiences. They've seen these orbs and they're all of a sudden having a Bigfoot encounter. Like, that's their encounter. And I can't say that that's invalid. It's just not been my personal experience yet. And so, what is that? I don't know. That's the only thing I can say. I'm not able to tell you what that is. But I'll tell you this much: if it happens to me and I experience something like that, well, it's certainly going to shift my perspective and it's going to stretch me. But I'm going to process that at that time. But until then, I'm going to appreciate the stories that people tell, their experiences. I'm gonna, like you said, open-ended questions, dive into them, and let all the data come together. And one of the things that really compelled me was doing this deep dive, and obviously having this experience, but also doing this deep dive into other people's encounters, and realizing that if even one of these people, even if one is absolutely accurate with their description and their experience, if 100 people tell a story and 99 of them are making crap up and only one person is telling an accurate story, well, that changes everything. Just that one person's story.
Right.
And that really compelled me too about you obviously know, we all know that there are people who would tell these stories just because they want to tell crazy stories. There's a lot of, I'm here to tell you, if you don't know it already, there's a lot of crazy people out in the world, but at the same time, there's a lot of, like, you guys, I tend to believe are genuinely honest and genuinely pursuing this subject matter and have had experiences and are just genuinely telling their personal experience like I am. And that changes it. That changes it for everything. The whole world shifts on one accurate encounter. And so I always look at it that way too. It's not a matter of them all being legit and saying it because one turned out to be a misidentification or just a made up story that they're all false now. No, it means that there's at least one, and there's obviously one, but there's at least one that is accurate and real.
Yeah, because I've watched multiple shows.
Oh, sure.
And I've seen people that when they talk about their experience, to me it sounds a little fishy. Like maybe it's not, because they've changed a little bit here. And when you watch somebody on multiple shows, sometimes they'll tell the same experience over and over and over. A great one is Greg House. That's one that I can tell you that man has seen a lot, and he tells the same thing over and over and over. But there are people every once in a while that'll change something, and puts it in my mind, being an outsider looking into this, that maybe they forgot, or maybe they're adding to it for sensationalism or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot, obviously in life, there's a lot of people that kind of want, they like the sensationalism. They like to be looked at as,
Yeah, but I think the average human being, can tell the same story, but, word for word, something may change here and there. I don't think it's out of purpose of doing it. I mean, I could tell you, the stuff that I've had happen to me, I can't tell you word for word every time. But
agreed, and I've added
any excitement to it.
When I've told stories not about Bigfoot, but when I've told stories, I'm sure I've added things to it because I've recollect a little more.
Yeah,
I'm not saying everybody does that, but there are people out there that do that.
Yeah.
Hi, Jeff.
Yeah,
Look at Jeff just nodding his head.
Yeah, it's you got to be almost like a crime scene investigator with some of this stuff. Like you got to look at it with this analytical, skeptical, critical eye, and realize that my perspective is obviously subjective to me. The other guys I was with, it was subjective to them, and their version of the story, their experiences, there's nuances to it, and that's also interesting to take into account. If this was just me, I'm sure this story would have, if it was just me walking down this trail and it was me having this experience by myself, probably would have just been like, all right, some dude saw something and we move on. But I think part of the reason why it kind of took off was because there was 4 of us and we all had some sort of credible background and, all had a similar experience that, it almost like you think of the detective pulling all 4 of us into a separate room and poking and prodding our stories. It's always been fairly consistent the whole way. And that lends credibility to it.
Well, I'm in no way telling people, saying that people, I've caught people, they change their stories, but I also realize that when these experiences happen, and you'd mentioned PTSD, that you might not recall everything right away. It might just come as time progresses. You start remembering, what the sun was like at that time, what the temperature was, what part of the woods you were looking in, you know, sounds you heard, you know, crunching of the leaves or whatever. It's stuff you do recall. I'm not saying that I'm not calling anybody, you know.
No, I got you.
For anything, for sure.
Yeah. No,
It's
I hear what you're saying. I agree with you. You gotta look at it critically and I think asking good questions.
Yes.
It not only helps the story and getting more details, but it helps me, you know, think about it from somebody else's perspective. That no, not at first.
Not at first. Okay.
I told my family, and it kind of my wife and I went on a trip. I tell this story all the time. We went on a second honeymoon. I'd come back from the war. I went shortly after the war. I went on this expedition thing with BFRO, and then we went to Punta Cana for like a little second honeymoon, you know. And you know, we're here. I'm in this tropical resort, this gorgeous place. I'm with my wife, you know, and you know, we're supposed to be focused on that kind of thing. And here I am reading a Bigfoot book on the beach because I'm so like my mind is like I cannot get off the topic. And I remember having conversations about like, what do we do from here? Like, can you tell the story? Is it going to destroy you personally? And this is where at the point where I came up with the plan of I'm just going to be honest to a fault. And so I didn't have like a church meeting and announced that something happened.
Put flyers out and everything.
Yeah, I wasn't. I didn't shy away from it either. You know, so.
They didn't get out their torches and pitchforks.
No. But I'm more than sure that there are certain people out there who found out, you know, that I had this story, or I'm telling this story, and I got onto a television show talking about this story, and my credibility with them went down. You know, just because we all have, we were saying before, we all have that, but I'm willing to allow that to continue. Because it's just who I am in my experience, and all I can do is be honest about it. And like I keep saying, let the chips fall where they may.
I've had very minimal people change an opinion. I mean, they don't badger me or anything. In fact, some have actually come forward and said, "Well, you know, this one time."
Yeah, well, I've had plenty of that too.
Yeah.
Like I was saying before. Yeah, I've certainly had that, and that's been the most encouraging thing. It seems like the more it's talked about, the more like when for instance, I keep saying I work in healthcare, you know, and I have colleagues that I work with, and over time, eventually people learn about, oh, this guy was on a TV show, or this guy had this experience. It's like, you know, it kind of gets to certain, you know, you have new employees, new colleagues that come up and like, you got to tell me this. And then all of a sudden they have a story they want to tell you. And that's what's most encouraging.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I've had guys that have been out with us that you know, same three guys I've been friends with forever. They're pretty much the only ones that are ever with me if I have anybody with me when it happens. And one doesn't talk about it except to me. And the other one still tries to say, oh, that was an owl, or that was. And I said, when the hell have you ever heard an owl do that?
Yeah.
Because owls don't scream at you and sound like a train horn at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Feeling like you're going to get your clothes blown off of you just from it yelling at you.
Yeah.
There's so many people out there. If they haven't seen it, then it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how people are.
You're right. Absolutely.
You know, I've talked about that before with, you know, we find new animals, new creatures, new insects every day, ones we've never seen before.
Yeah.
Do I believe they exist? Well, you know, there's pictures of them, so I kind of believe they exist. Just because I don't see them doesn't mean somebody else hasn't seen it. So,
right. Yeah. I think to back to that commenter's point about, you know, reinforcing his faith in God. I think one of the things that this experience and just my, you know, experience in life as I've gotten older has reinforced for me is that we are a lot smaller than we think we are, and we know
Absolutely.
a lot less than we think we do. When we catch ourselves in this moment thinking that we know everything there is to know about the world around us, I mean, that makes us God. That makes us the creator, and replaces the real one. And so it's a very humbling thing for me to acknowledge that I don't know everything, and there are things out there, even right outside my walls here, in the woods around me, that I don't know about, and that's okay. I didn't catch that comment, but
They were picking on Jeff.
They're making fun of me because I fall asleep sometimes.
It's interesting when he does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, it's been several episodes since that's happened. So I have to stay caffeinated. That's how it works.
Yeah, when you sip that whiskey or that beer, that's a depressant. It knocks you out, man. You
gotta counteract it with some caffeine or some nicotine. One of the two.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, you got to go like double fisted, the whiskey and the Red Bull, right?
Well, I just finished a Monster.
Monster, yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's a great comment there too. Looks like from Dorothy, you can't see gravity or wind or electricity, but we know it exists by what it does. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
now, Tom, have you done any meet and greets or done anything like that, or not even not even share your experience, but just go to meet
I mean,
people?
like when this first happened, I attended like the Ohio conference a couple times. I got involved with some of the folks there. There's been a few local Pennsylvania things that I've participated in, but to be honest with you, like I said, my priorities kind of shifted, when the kids were born, and I had to like pick and choose what I was going to do with my life. And unfortunately, Bigfoot hunting and Bigfoot networking wasn't on the top tier of that list, at least at that point. But the other part of it was, at least at that time, and I don't get into name calling or picking out individuals in particular, but at least in my neck of the woods, I attended a few things that with people whose personalities I didn't seem to jive with. It seemed like it was very there was like a lot of control issues. It was some very, very personality driven, some things, and I didn't really mesh well with it. So I kind of took a back seat to some of the stuff, at least was local. So yeah, that was also part of one of the contributing factors. It seemed like there were folks who were just like, either you acknowledge me as the king or the queen of this organization and this movement, or you're out. And it was I just didn't enjoy it. So but I as I told Mary and my conversation with her about a month or so ago, it seems like the tide has shifted in some ways, like groups like you guys, folks that we talked to on her show. Like, it seemed like there's a lot of really good people who are not in it because of their personal egos, but are in it because of, like, we want to do. We want to pursue knowledge. We want to pursue a community of people, like-minded people who are just interested in the subject. And so I'm more willing to engage in kind of thing.
Very, very well said, Mary. Very well said. Yep.
That's a good point there. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a big reason why I'm not big on these conferences and some of this stuff.
Oh yeah, it seems like a lot of it might be profit driven too, and that drives me crazy. I'd
rather go camp out with a bunch of people in the middle of nowhere. That sounds like a
right.
Well, and possibly share an experience. That's the neat thing about those.
We could all be asleep and something could run through and knock over half of our tents, and we're trying to figure out what happened to it.
No, that would be you, Jeff. That would be you running through the campground naked.
Well, with my luck, I'd be the one that it gets tangled up in the tent and drags me off somewhere. Then I have to cut myself out of my tent.
Sleeping in your burrito hammock.
Well, I only sleep in the burrito when we're backcountry camping. If we're next to the truck, I'm in the big tent.
Yeah. I appreciate that comment you pulled up about kids saying their parents told them it's not real, so they just believed it. And I'll tell you what, my kids have a different perspective on it.
Yeah.
my kids are more evangelistic when it comes to Bigfoot than I even am most of the time. They tell their friends, "Oh, Bigfoot's real. My daddy's seen him." They're outright about it.
The last time I went to one of these, I went to my first Bigfoot festival this year, and my kid was telling everybody, "Dad's going on a Bigfoot retreat," and I'm like, "What?" My ex-wife's like, "Would you stop telling that?" I'm like, "I didn't tell him that."
I love it. I love it.
He came up with that on his own. I don't know where he comes up with this stuff, but
Yeah. Now we've got like footprints around the house. I got Bigfoot figurine things around the house. I got books on the bookshelf, and so for our household, it's normalized. It's our kids grew up with it. It's part of reality. And they would think, if you were to ask them, did I always believe in this? They would probably say, yeah, because as far as they're concerned, as far as from their perspective, it's always been the thing. But I'm constantly, I'm regularly telling them that this is something. This was a life-changing experience. I didn't grow up with this. Yeah.
When you were a kid, did you believe in Bigfoot?
I'm not. I mean, I think the only thing Bigfoot related I ever thought about or talked about was Harry and the Hendersons. And so I would probably say no. I didn't know.
Okay.
I was very skeptical. I would certainly have been interested in the subject. I loved, like, when I was a kid, Monster Quest was a show. What else was, like, Unsolved Mysteries? Would occasionally have like a UFO or a Bigfoot or a Nessie, Loch Ness Monster type episode, and it would like pique my interest, and I would consume that, and I would eat it up. But if you were to force me when I was a kid, I'd say no. I don't think this is, because again, I've always been that. I need to see evidence. I need to,
Gotcha.
and unless my teacher told me in class, or unless someone explained it scientifically, I was gonna say, nah, it's not real. And that was true even about like things like religion and faith. I pushed back on it because I didn't think it made sense scientifically or evidential. The evidence didn't support it. Well, I personally came to a conclusion it does, and so that's kind of I came to faith in that because of that process. So it's very typical for my personality to unless I experience it or see it for myself, I'm probably not on board. And in this case, I had an experience, so
Right.
It changed everything.
I think I was one of those kids that believed. I believed in it all because people were seeing it, and since we've become older, and I've studied Nessie a little bit more and learned that a lot of pictures that I thought were real have been proven not to be real. That
I was heartbreaking when I found out that stuff.
yeah, and but in the back of my mind, I always said, well, if I exist, why can't these things exist?
Sure.
Somebody in California has never seen me before, but yet, that's kind of how it is. I mean, maybe they have, maybe they haven't. I don't know, but I'm just saying that that's the way I looked at things as far as Bigfoot is. And we also thought that Bigfoot lived in Oregon, and that was it.
Right.
But now we're realizing through the years that everybody that's come out, we realize that probably Alabama is the hot spot for all these. Ohio, Alabama.
Yeah.
So all the things that we're hearing, they're everywhere, and different sizes, just like humans. There's different sizes, different faces, different fur, different eyes, just like humans. So these things
different attitude.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, that's what makes me believe that these things exist, because too many people, I don't think, and hearing some of the people's that I've heard's experiences and watching people break down after they give their experiences, I can't say that there's no way they're not making this up. You can't show that kind of emotion about something you're making up.
Right.
It's real what you saw.
Yeah. Yeah. Did my parents talk anything about anything paranormal? No, not really. And I also wanted to mention about growing up, like one of the things that may be different from me and you guys, and I obviously am just getting to know you now, but I grew up in a city-like environment. I grew up in in an urban environment. The north side of Pittsburgh was my backyard, and so I didn't grow up running around the woods. And so, and from our perspective, though, I deeply love the mountains of West Virginia. Now, when I was a kid, you made fun of people who grew up down there. Those were the hillbillies that married their cousins and whatnot. But that was what we grew up with, and and if I didn't see it in my city environment, it wasn't real. And it could be, or if people had an experience, they could be explained away because they were just drunk or high or had some weird experience. So again, I agree with you. Now that I've had this experience and realize the error of my ways in that way, I crave the mountains of West Virginia where I want to be out there more. And for other reasons on top of that, just like get away from the controlling hand of my city government or whatever, get out and live free.
Absolutely.
But anyway, not to go down that road, but yeah. So my parents didn't grow up talking about this stuff. I grew up thinking it was all just a bunch of hillbillies having some weird experiences. But I've since, heard and seen something that changed my life, and then dug into the evidence beyond that to convince and encourage myself that what I saw and experienced, what this group of guys I was with saw and experienced, wasn't just some crazy, just we were all losing our mind. There's something real to this. And
what helped you is you had multiple people.
Yeah. I mean,
experience.
Yeah, it changed everything, and just opened my eyes. Yeah. Have you taken your kids camping? No. I'm still not the most outdoorsy guy. I'll be completely honest with you. My wife constantly is asking me to take the kids out. Let's go camping. I think there's a part of me that's a little hesitant.
Camping can be very beneficial. Trust me.
Yeah.
So you're like a cabin in the mountain guy.
Oh, yes.
Not a tent in the mountain guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
We love the cabin stuff. We love going out and getting a cabin in the Smokies or a cabin in the Cook Forest area. We love that kind of stuff. I'm not a tent guy. I like a nice mattress. I like a hot shower in the morning.
Yep, gotcha.
Well, you can put a nice mattress in a tent.
Yeah, you can. Yes, you can. Yeah.
I actually bought one of those the fold up cots with the little mattress topper. It's pretty nice.
Yeah. I'm certainly not getting. No, I'll tell you this much. When we went on that Bigfoot trip, my friend and I, we drove in a little Fiat 500.
Oh Lord!
And we,
I don't think I can fit in one of them.
Yeah, and we set the tent up in such a way that the trunk of the car was open into the tent so that we could have our stuff in there, like our food and stuff. And so that was our definition of camping. Everyone's just pulling up in their Jeeps and their SUVs, and stuff. Here we are, like little city boys, little Fiat. So yeah, it was an eye-opening experience in many ways.
I always love watching people that have never camped before trying to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
Hey, but mad props, they're trying it. So.
Yeah,
especially when you're setting up a tent that you've never put together before.
I don't have the
There's
patience
like
to pull
10
it.
people out there trying to figure out how
That'll make or break a relationship there.
You can't.
Yeah.
You get a
It's
husband
like
and wife out putting
assembling
a tent
IKEA
together.
furniture.
Ooh.
Hey, your husband and wife back in an RV into an RV.
Oh,
My
get
dad used to
interesting.
get so mad at my mom. He'd be backing up the camper and she'd
That's like your family trying to put the cows back in the fence after they get out.
Just kidding, hon, if you're watching.
I will tell you, one of the things I'm interested in doing potentially is getting like a trailer, and doing that kind of thing. We have a tent. I've had a tent for years. I haven't opened it in a long time. I probably would end up divorced. My wife and I ended up divorced trying to set it up together. But we did do we had like a fun trip where we went up to Alaska and we're in an RV all around Alaska, and that was amazing. That was fantastic. And I've definitely have explored that possibilities of doing that. And, this trip we took out to Yellowstone, of course, you see trailers and RVs all over the place. And something that I'm exploring actively doing for us and the family.
Yeah, I tell you, camping, I grew up, since a little kid, my parents took me camping all the time. and it's an experience I'll never forget. The places, you know,
Yeah.
the forests I've been to, the just the things I've seen from New York, you know, the backwoods of New York into Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, Maine, all of that area, and in Ontario, and it's such a, you see things that you're probably never going to see in your lifetime, and that's what makes it even more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Now I'll admit my mother hated it because it wasn't, you know, it wasn't glamping, because she liked glamping, you know, with the everything. I want electricity, I want this, I want that, you know.
Yeah.
Where my wife and I do everything primitive, so
yeah.
There's a big difference.
I appreciate the comment here. Someone said about I'm too old and I won't be able to get off the ground the next day. I'm only in my 40s, but man, I feel that. I feel that comment.
That's why I use a cot.
Yeah, I hear the cot. I hear the cot.
And I just slide my legs off and stand up, and but in a hammock, even though I'm still in my 30s, I ungracefully roll out of that thing onto the floor every time I have to get out of it.
Yeah.
Because when you're height challenged, hammocks do not work very well.
What?
You pretty much have to toss yourself into it to go to bed.
Yeah.
It's
That's
just,
almost worth getting a video of that.
Yeah, I don't think there's any attractive way to get out of a hammock. I don't care. I don't.
No, it doesn't matter what you weigh, how
Yeah.
big you are, how small you are. No.
Yeah.
Is that true? Is that true, Jeff? I know you got a tent from Patrick, but you can't jump and hit the roof.
no, I can
Wow.
hit the roof.
I
I
think
had to get Bud to hold it up for me so I could figure out how to push the mechanism to lock the dome together. That was the biggest issue.
Yeah,
But
Sherry, I'm right there with you. You got an RV. That's my form of camping.
Yeah.
The most embarrassing thing you can ever have happen to you is get in a hammock in the middle of the night and have it flip upside down with you in it. That's
Yeah.
And then you have to get your
Hammocks are
friends
interesting.
to get out of their hammocks to come help you get out of it. I ripped the bug netting out of it while I was hanging upside down in it because it was putting all the pressure on the bug netting.
When I was coaching high school soccer, some of my soccer players would go and they go camping, but they would do the hammock and they would put their hammock so high up in the trees. And somehow they thought that was cool, but it was one of those hammocks that basically when you lay in it, it kind of wraps around your body. So you can't really fall out. No, thanks. Because I would still feel or the ropes would break, or a branch that I've got tied to, something would happen.
Yeah. We've got I think they're called Eagle's Nest hammocks. We got a couple of them that they're like that. They're that like parachute material, and they kind of come up around you. They're comfortable once you get in, but I have never gotten out of it and looked, impressed my wife with my with my grace.
Well, the first one I ever bought was an absolute piece of junk, and I said, I am never buying that brand again. I'll buy whatever my buddies got, and they were off of Amazon, and they were much better. It was a much better setup than the other one.
Yeah.
I burned the other one in West Virginia. It did not leave the mountain. I ended up having to use a tarp as a shield because my screen got ripped out, and the rain fly that came with it wasn't even as wide as a G-string. So you couldn't. This is not going to cover an entire hammock. That's how wide that fabric was.
Yeah.
I like Sherry's comment here about being a human burrito for whatever lurks out there.
Yeah,
That's accurate. Yeah.
Exactly.
The entire time I slept in the hammock that weekend, I kept thinking to myself, well, I have no screen protection now, and I've got this tarp over top me. If a bear wants to, all it's got to do is walk up in here and stick its head in between the tarp and the fabric, and I'm in trouble.
Right.
Worst part was I heard something in the middle of the night, and I was trying to find my light and my repellent, and then my friend woke me up and said I was snoring and woke myself up. So at least
Oh man.
My hand was asleep too. That was the worst part. So I was trying to reach over my left hand to find my light. And you know how a hammock is. If you have anything in the pouches on the hammock and they end up out of the pouch, next thing you know, it's underneath of you in the hammock.
Yep.
So you lose all sorts of stuff in there, and you know it's right there, but you can't find it.
Right.
Yeah, Don, up until 20 years ago, he used to camp. I'm not laying on the ground in a sleeping bag or.
Now, I won't lay on the ground. I'll get in a cot or hang.
That's still too.
Well, I'll guarantee you, after the handprint incident, we're not going to be sleeping in any tents.
Yeah.
Eric will be, we'll be in the Kia still, sleeping in the back.
Good example. Good example. Yeah.
Yep.
A little bit of something between you and it.
Yeah. At least give you a fighting chance.
Bud's got himself a nice hiker trailer now, so he doesn't have to climb in the back of his pickup anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As serious as I can be.
Sure. You come on and tell your story, I'd say you're pretty serious about it. So.
Yeah. All I can do is, I mean, there's, as I keep saying, there's no benefit for me to come around and make up stories. It's the story. It's my experience. And, yeah, I wish I had more. There's times where I'm like, man, I wish, I don't know. I don't even know what I wish. I listen to some people. Some people's stories are just so compelling and fascinating, and I think it caught us so off guard and caught me. It startled me so much. I wish I could go back in time and be like, just stand there for a minute and look at this thing and really, study it or something. I don't know. Can't do it. Obviously it was what it was, and.
Yeah.
All I can do is tell you how it happened.
it happened the way it was supposed to happen. How's that?
There you go.
Yeah. And I used to always say, you're one of the few lucky ones. But I think there's a whole lot of people that just don't speak.
Yeah. Oh, there's
that have been just as lucky.
I also think there's a whole lot of people that we'll go with missing 411 that maybe experience something and.
Well, I'll tell you what, that really opened my eyes when, we started going out to national parks and things and, enjoying state parks, and you hear all these stories about people who disappear on these trails, and you're like, okay, like obviously there's things that happen. People fall, they,
sure,
disappear, whatever. But there's a number of these stories where like, that was a seasoned hiker. That was an educated outdoorsman. How? How did they just disappear? Certainly, obviously, we will likely never get that answer, but it's certainly this experience and the research that it led me down, the road it led me down, opened my eyes to, As we were saying before, there's some of these creatures that have different personalities and different, I would often hear, they're always docile. Are they? Do we know that for sure?
Just say they're different than walking down the street in a town or something. That person walking by you don't know what you're going to
You have no idea. Exactly. There's different personalities and characteristics. I mean, just my backyard. I mean, just I'm a what do you call it? Like a homer, hometown guy. I love Pennsylvania. I love the Appalachian Mountains. One of the things
to start.
What's that?
That's a good spot to start.
Yeah. So, as I was still making fun of my past, talking about how like I grew up in the city, right? And so all the people from West Virginia are the backwoods hillbillies, and when we moved to Tennessee and spent time in the Smoky Mountains and just kind of drove back and forth between Virginia, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, you realize how similar all this whole region is, and how Pittsburgh, I often have described Pittsburgh as people like to say it's like a New England city or is it a Midwestern city. I said, really, it's an Appalachian city. And some people have described it as the Paris of Appalachia. And I like to think of it that way, that it's part of that region. And so Appalachia is my home. That's where I if I do squatching, it's that area. It's up and down the Appalachian Mountains, West Virginia, Tennessee, Western Pennsylvania.
You really don't have to leave Pennsylvania, I don't think.
No, I know.
That whole area.
No, I just love the hills. Like going into the Laurel Highlands area.
Yeah.
Laurel Highlands has been really interesting in terms of reports that have come out of there. I've never personally had an experience in Laurel Highlands, but there's a ton of stuff that comes out of there. It seems like the more I look into it, the more people I talk to who are in and out of that region, there's a lot of stories, a lot of experiences that come out of that part of the mountain chain.
Yeah, there's a good bit right there around Gettysburg too.
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's
and we're only an hour and a half from there, so
a good spot.
Yeah.
We need to go up there again. I got up there back in April.
The show, the show's a good spot.
The only problem was the weather was terrible that weekend.
Yeah, rain can ruin a lot of things.
Rain and then the
dog
wind.
man sightings. Yeah, Sean.
The wind tried to blow some tents away, except for mine. Mine was fine.
Were you in it?
No, we lost. We had an incident with Bud's Easy Up. It went for a short flight, but
Bud rectified that now. He's got a new trailer now. So.
Well, he still takes the Easy Up.
Yeah. What do you think? What's your opinion of Dogman, Tom?
I have not done a whole lot of research. I've heard of it. I've read stories. Honestly, for most of the time, I would just considered it another version of a Bigfoot type creature, but it clearly has different characteristics. I don't have an educated opinion on it. So my experience and my personal reading has only been strictly on Sasquatch or Bigfoot, but a lot of people I respect and know love the Dogman subject, and so I'm wanting to grow in that arena. I'm interested.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's creepy to think about, but
yeah.
Some very good people have claimed some crazy stuff with dogs.
Yeah. So. No, I've certainly
very believable people.
Certainly got wind of some of it, but it's I don't know. I guess until it's like front and center, right in my face, it's not something that I chase after. People have asked me because we've gone. I know you guys have talked about UFOs, paranormal things like that. It's again not a subject that I'm educated enough in to really give an opinion because it's just. I'll tell you this much: if I have some sort of unexplained, aerial experience, better well believe I'll be diving into it, but it's just not something that I've personally pursued.
Right.
Things like that. I wish I could speak more educated on, but I just can't. Just gonna have to admit that.
yeah. A lot of people don't know. Well, they don't know. Nobody really knows anything about any of it, but
right.
To me, Dogman is relatively new over the last few years, but I don't doubt it. I really don't.
Yeah.
I'll show you something after the show's over if it don't run too late. But
I would love to. Yeah. No, it's I think if anything,
I've got a track too.
Yeah.
So what's that?
I have a track too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's one thing I don't have is a track.
I've had everything basically except eye shine and
visual.
Visual. Now I had something as a possible visual years ago that I thought was a ghost, but now that I think about it, that was an awfully large ghost for that distance.
Well, I think I keep it might sound like a broken record, but as this experience has opened my eyes and got me in front of people who are sharing their experiences and who are willing to hear mine, it's made me much more willing to and interested in hearing what other people have to say, because others have given me that respect and that active listening ear. Who am I to not, even if I'm like, I don't know about that. I want to hear it. I want to know your story. I want to know your experience. Because I've been shown that respect over the years and that interest. And I know how that feels, to be taken Even if it comes with a grain of salt, to be given the room and given the floor to share, what I have had experience.
Listen and learn. That's what I'll say.
That's it. Yeah, who am I? Who am
You are-
I? I'm not God. I don't know. I'm not omniscient. I don't have all the answers, and I'll never claim to be. So I'm just willing to humbly listen and take it in.
Yep.
It changes when you see one. You're right, Greg. Very
There
careful
changes-
what you wish for.
Yeah, it changes you when you see one. Absolutely. Yeah.
It changes when you get screamed at 40 yards.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Absolutely.
Well, we're 121. Sorry, guys. I'm tired. Long day. Long day tomorrow. Oh, my goodness. Really long day.
Yeah. I've got a few things I got to take care of before work, before this night is over yet myself. But
Well, definitely.
don't stay on my account.
Definitely keep in touch with you. Come across something new, or you definitely like to hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate. I'm honored, honestly, to be invited to share. I know, I know you've probably had much more fascinating and much more tangible stories that have been told.
Everything counts.
Yeah,
Everything counts.
And like I said multiple times now, I wish I had more, but it's being given this opportunity to talk and meet you guys, and
Sure.
it means a lot, and it is it's been great. I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate the work that you do having these live conversations. I love that nothing's here like edited out, nothing's like.
Yep.
That was the one thing. If I could say one thing about the whole Finding Bigfoot experience, they butchered the story. They completely butchered, the details, the conversation I had. And I was with Cliff and Bobo on the show, and both of them were great. In person, we spent hours talking. It was wonderful. They really were invested in the story, wanted to hear every single detail. We went over it, over every iota of it. And by the time you get to the actual episode, it's like this 5-minute clip, and it's cut down and butchered, and it sounds ridiculous, at least for my ears. For other people, they love it, but for my ears, it sounds like it's totally obliterated. And so I appreciate that, like Mary's show, your show here. I appreciate that it's just live and unedited, and what is said, and just let it out there, because it doesn't help anybody by trying to curate a certain narrative or a certain version of the story.
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons I was like, when Jeff, when you reached out and I said, what is the show? Let me know, but I want to look at the show. Like I watched an episode or two, and I'm like, I like what these guys are doing.
Yeah.
It's not,
They're frills.
it's not manicured to be, it's not manicured to be like some sort of high-end production.
Wow.
This
I
is,
hate
redneck.
those shows.
yeah, this is just a bunch of guys talking, and that's what I'm all about.
I kind of
They don't want you to talk about yourself or anything.
except for when everybody
Tell
talks
us
over
about
one
Bigfoot.
another.
That's all it is. Tell us about Bigfoot, and that's all they
I
do.
kind of think this is Jerry and Jeff's show, but I think they want it the same way. As like you're sitting around the fire just talking, telling stories, telling your tales and stuff. I think that's what this one is for sure. And there's other ones out there that are really good as well that aren't edited, just like this one. And but this is the best. Just
Woodwalkers is
Yeah,
the one that's
it's great.
Woodwalkers is a great one, absolutely.
This is way better than listening to some a-hole with a PhD, going on and on about.
I'm sorry, Tom. I tried to make him mind his manners tonight, but kids will be kids.
It's all good. It's all good. I've heard those words before.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, Jeff,
We're trying to be PG-13.
with Jeff, you get what you get, and that's just the way it is.
It's all good. One of the reasons why I love the work that I do is as a chaplain is because I'm out in the real world with real people, and especially in my years in the military, I fell to the earth, man. And there's no like let's just kind of manicure this and make it nice for the chaplain. No, it is what it is.
Just hold digger. Yeah, you're right, Verax. Absolutely. Yep.
Thanks. Is it Virax? Is that how it's pronounced? Virax?
Yeah.
I appreciate that comment. That means a lot. I feel like I did find some brothers here. So
Absolutely. That's what we like to hear.
Glad
Yeah,
you feel that
we're
way.
always looking to grow the family.
yeah.
That's right. Right, Blackie?
You betcha.
He
I don't
has
like
a
this
good
whole
show.
vampire look I've got going on right now. This isn't,
Yeah, it's a little odd looking.
especially with these big ears. I'm waiting for them to like.
I'm waiting for like wings to sprout behind him.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I love how the beard goes right into the shirt. Like it just
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah. Chad has a show every Sunday, him and his wife, the Oddcast podcast, Off the Record.
Yeah,
Okay.
our show is more of
good off the wall stuff.
Yeah,
Cool.
we do conspiracy. We've done a lot of other conspiracy stuff, weather manipulation stuff. Our last episode we did with a former oncologist, cancer doctor. We talked a little bit about COVID, which was interesting. I loved the chat for that. But talked about that. We talked about some cancer treatments, just different things. What's the red dyes, the stuff they put in our foods and what they're doing to us and everything. So that's the kind of stuff we do.
I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, we hang out with so many people in the Bigfoot community that we kind of wanted to do something different. That way everybody, had their shows. I didn't want to interfere with anybody. So
Nice.
yeah.
All right,
We
well, it sounds like
definitely made
it's up
a
my
lot of
alley in the other areas of interest of mine. So I'll check that out.
Oh yeah, you never know what they're going to come up with. They've had some good topics.
Yeah,
For sure.
very cool.
Okay, next Tuesday we will not be here. Sorry, I have to go out of town. And the following Tuesday, who do we have, Jeff? I know you got somebody lined up.
I got a guy named Matt Parrish who's out of Washington.
Okay.
I think he's done some work with Expedition Bigfoot. I got to go back and read through all of that, wonderful list of stuff that people send me that I can't remember unless I go stare at it for 5 minutes. And that's all I got right now that I
Okay.
give off the top of my head.
Yeah, let's see.
So I scheduled him for the following week, so he'll be
Following
ready.
Tuesday. Next Tuesday we will not be here, but the following we will. After that, we will definitely be here. I guess should be. It's busy time for me. It's fair season, so
He's got to go chase all the tractors around. and-
chase. Yep. Make sure everybody's legal. Go for
All right.
it. So for sure. We appreciate everybody in chat. Some good questions, and
Yeah,
definitely keep an eye out for that name, Tom, and hopefully his wish comes true. I know he wants more. He wants more. Just be careful what you wish for. But, I have a feeling we're going to hear some more stuff in the near future from him.
I appreciate you guys. I look forward to just staying in touch.
It was a pleasure talking with you, Tom.
Absolutely.
Miss Mary, Monkey Winch podcast tomorrow night,
Oh, she's doing one tomorrow.
7:30. Unfortunately, I will be in Lebanon, PA. I won't be able to do that, but I can always watch it afterwards. So,
Hey, if I can say before we go off, Misty, since you're still here,
yes.
you were awesome yesterday on our podcast. Your chat was awesome. I loved it. You didn't make anybody upset. We talked about it. It was awesome. I love you speaking your mind like that. Thank you. Okay, that's it.
Oh, and for anybody that's going to be awake after this, DA and Robbie are going to be on the Monsters Lounge at 10. In case anybody wants to check that out.
I'll be there too. And Monster sleeping.
Monsters.
Yeah, ain't gonna be much longer for me. So.
I got to
You
go
guys
put my birds away.
hang on a minute. We'll meet you guys backstage, and the rest of you again 2 weeks. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Sounds like another great guest, and Tom, we appreciate you.
Yep.
And look forward to having a talk again with you. So,
All right. Thanks, guys.
okay, rest of you 2 weeks. Right,
Hey,
Chad?
everybody.
What's your next show, Chad?
It won't be this Sunday. We're going boating. We haven't gone boating at all, so we're going to go. Some friends have invited us out. So 2 weeks.
In 2
In
weeks.
2 weeks,
Okay.
we'll have a
There you
show.
go. Another 2 weeker. So,
Yep.
Okay, I'm done yapping. Good night, everybody. Big love to everybody.
Good night. Big love.
See you in 2 weeks.